Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move ahead. Albert Einstein once said, when I read the Bhagavad Gita and reflect about how God created this universe, everything else seems so superfluous. To talk upon this, we have with us our next guest, Professor Lakshmidhar Behera. Dr. Lakshmidhar Behera is working as Poonam and Prabhu Goyal Chair Professor at IIT Kanpur, having research and teaching experience of more than 25 years. He has received the BSc Engineering and MSc Engineering degrees from NIT Rourkela in 1988 and 1990 respectively. He has received the PhD degree from IIT Delhi in 1996. He pursued the postdoctoral studies in the German National Research Center for Information Technology, GMD, St. Augustine, Germany, during 2000-2001. Previously, he has worked as an assistant professor at BITS Pilani during 1995-1999 and as a reader at Intelligent Systems Research Center, ISRC, University of Ulster, United Kingdom during 2007-2009. He has also worked as a visiting researcher professor at FHG Germany and ETH Zurich, Switzerland. His research work lies in the convergence of machine learning, control theory, robotic vision, and heterogeneous robotic platforms. He has received more than 250 million INR research grants to support his research activities. He has established in industrial collaboration with TCS, Renault, Nissan, Bell Bangalore, and ADNOC Abu Dhabi, while making significant technological development in areas such as robotics-based warehouse automation, vision, and drone-guided driver assistance system, as well as drone-guided pipeline inspection systems. He has published more than 300 papers in journals and conference proceedings. He has supervised 19 PhD theses to completion. He is a fellow of INAE and senior member of IEEE. He is a technical committee member on IEEE SMC on robotics and intelligent systems. His other research interests include intelligent control, semantic signal, music processing, neural networks, brain-computer interface, control of cyber-physical systems, and cognitive modeling. Apart from his professional activities, Professor Behera teaches Bhagavad Gita to young students while helping them to build strong character. He has taught Bhagavad Gita at IIM Indore. He is currently teaching Consciousness and Values at IIIT Pune. Now I request Professor Lakshmidhar Behera to enrich this session with his valuable wisdom. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your generous introduction. And thank you, Dr. Amit Sinha ji, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak. I thank all organizers for organizing this wonderful conference. I hope the many participants would be benefited by such wonderful, by the wonderful experiences being shared, just like we saw Dr. Patavardhan. So here, I will see, I didn't know what I have to speak, but recently, a few days back, I was giving a talk on what is consciousness. So I thought that probably I will speak that. So there is, Bhagavad Gita is so vast, is extremely vast, and hence it is not very easy to speak because I don't know exactly what kind of audience you have. So the basic contribution of Bhagavad Gita is what is consciousness. When I was in MIT in Boston, where currently the AI research has taken a very upward swing, and people are talking what is consciousness. But unfortunately, consciousness is described in Bhagavad Gita, but nobody studies Bhagavad Gita. We want to build a machine that can have consciousness, but we don't know what is consciousness. Even we don't know whether we are conscious or not. So that is the level of ignorance in which current so-called modern civilization is soaked in. We talk very big, but we have hardly any sense of consciousness within us because we do not introspect on the very topic. We introspect on sense objects, but not the consciousness. So let me share my slide and then are you able to see my slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
And are you able to see this the flip?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So Amit ji has given me this title. So many ways I could have talked. I could have talked the scientific content in Bhagavad Gita. I could have talked the cultural values and ethics in Bhagavad Gita. But because this is the first time I'm talking in such a forum, so I thought that the basics must be taught first. And that is what is consciousness. So, and given the AI, artificial intelligence is making sweeping noise everywhere, and with the products like Alexa, Siri, everybody is thinking that we don't need humans anymore. The AI machines can actually run the society, run country, run our security. So in that context, it is very important to realize what is consciousness. So I just want to give a very short summary of that. So who am I? So hardly we do introspect because we have no time for us. We have time for everything else that we are not. This is the irony or dichotomy of this civilization. We have no time for our own self. If you ask yourself how much time you spent with yourself, the answer would be zilch, 0, nothing. We give no time to ourselves. That is how this world is so mad and bad. So if you look at here, what is this body made up of? Is it just flesh, bone, blood, pus? Or is it more than what we see in our naked eyes? So what I'm going to do is that I am going to ask you some questions and try to recognize what you are. So are you this body, the way it is appearing? Just think about what you are. You must realize by little introspection, by becoming little philosophical, experiences are the only kind of things that we know to exist. If something, what is existing in this world? If I ask this question, the only answer you would find, irrespective of whether you are an Indian, American, scientist, artist, dramatist, you are a farmer, businessman, administrator, doesn't matter. The only thing that exists for you is your own experience. So what you are, your own experience. Okay? So your identity or my identity has two parts. I, the experiencer, and my experiences. Unfortunately, what science does, science simply analyzes the experiences, but doesn't understand who's the experiencer. Whereas Bhagavad Gita, because you cannot talk about experience without the experiencer. Without the experiencer, there is no meaning to experiences. But unfortunately, within modern science, we only talk about experience, but not the experiencer. In fact, they don't have idea who's the experiencer. एक अनुभव है और एक अनुभवी. अनुभवी कौन है, उसके बारे में कोई जानकारी नहीं है, कोई पूछता भी नहीं है इसके बारे में प्रश्न। और मॉडर्न साइंस में ये प्रश्न पूछना एक एक क्रिमिनल एक्ट है। You should not ask this question. That is the nature. So unfortunately, we have not given any importance to the experiencer part of my identity, whereas we only analyze experiences. For example, you do varieties of activities, right? So cooking, unless you are enjoying that experience, you can't cook, right? So this feels tasty, right, when you eat. So the taste that you are experiencing, okay, or you are liking the music, classical music, the experience of classical music, that is endearing to you. Even if the veena is there, the singer is there, but you don't like that experience, you don't have taste for that, it doesn't make any sense to you. You will go and hear the DJ. So the idea is the kind of taste that you have defines your personality. And let me tell you, according to Bhagavad Gita, in the conditioned state, when we are not perfected, the experiencer and experience are not the same. Whereas in pure state, these two are one and the same, non-duality. So when I'm pure, for me, my own experience and I, there is no distinction. This is a very high level concept. Whereas when we are conditioned, today I may like classical, tomorrow I may like something else. Okay, my taste changes because I have not gone into my real self. I am dwelling in my artificial self. So today here, tomorrow there, is goes on. Like, for example, if you sit here, if you are a student, you are thinking, should I do medicine? Should I do engineering? Should I do journalism? Goes on. You don't know what is your nature, unfortunately. Because our education system doesn't recognize, just like in Ayurveda, you see, for everyone, as far as your diseases are concerned, these diseases are must for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you are a prime minister, you are a president, whatever you are, right? You will be diseased. Even Margaret Thatcher, once upon a time, she was the most powerful prime minister of the world, British prime minister. But at the end, she lost her memory. She even forgot that her husband has died. Okay, so we must know our nature such that I can minimize my disease state. So this is the way of Vedic tradition. The Vedic tradition is know your nature. In all fields, for your creativity, you must know your nature. And we never give importance to our nature. And that is why you see India is a country of 130, 40 billion population, crore population, but we don't have creativity. We killed our Vedic spirit. We brought in a kind of education, hired a kind of education that is antithesis to our culture. We have lost our creativity. Creativity will be there only when you emphasize on your nature. In our education, nobody knows. Nowadays in India, if you are born, you are 7-year-old, 8-year-old, your parents should say, go and take JEE coaching. Finished, your nature is finished. You are given a pattern by your society. Too bad here. At least in Western countries, they will not do something if they don't like. Here, we do everything based on how much pay package I can get. So where is the nature? Where would be our creativity? So we have become a nation without creativity. Although our culture, our values are so rich, if someone is soaked in such culture, such values, not only can become creativity, can show the direction to the entire world. Okay. So what do we experience? What is our experience? When I eat, I experience the taste of food. I don't experience kaddu, lauki. I experience the taste in kaddu, taste in lauki. Okay. So your scientist may say, oh, kaddu is made up of this, lauki is made up of... No, you don't experience that. You don't experience protein. You don't experience, this and that and that and that. No, you experience all the taste. And those tastes can be in 3 varieties: sattvic taste, rajasic taste, and tamasic taste. When I see, I experience the shape, color, location, emotion. Okay. So basically, Bhagavad Gita says this world is made up of only 5 things, my dear friends. Can you imagine? So simple. For me, the world is a sense object. And not only me, from aquatics to animals to plants to reptiles, for everyone, this world is simply a sense object. And how many varieties of sense object? 5 tanmatras. Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Swada, Ghrana. Sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. We went on making periodic table. 120 elements, 130 elements. And later the scientists said, we fooled our people. They are not the basic building block of the universe. And then they gave up that idea and then started speaking, electron and 2 quarks are the basic building block of the universe. And then quantum field, the recent NARA is going on. My dear friends, how this knowledge is going to bring in values within you? No. Our seers knew how to describe this world. This world is described in terms of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. That's all we are looking for, nothing else. Because this is all my experience. So now, for example, nowadays, people are so indulgent in their sense objects and horrible sense in experience, right? People nowadays, by the age of 10 or 12 or even 14, you know what kind of drugs are there in the market. You have experienced all of that. You know all kinds of illicit sex. You literally have experienced all kinds of cheating procedures. And you have experienced all kinds of non-violent food in your plate, from meat to egg to fish to everything. So what happens after 14? So you have enjoyed so much tamasic experience. Beyond this, there is nothing. What happens? The only thing that happens is depression, depression, and depression. The current symptom of young population, young, old, doesn't matter. Everybody is going through depression because they do not know how to sanctify their experience. Okay? Like earlier, suppose I was lusty. I used to feel bad. Oh, I'm lusty. I'm feeling, and I'm feeling badly about the opposite sex. If I lose semen in my dream, I used to take shelter of my, elders. Oh, I have this problem. Please help me. But nowadays, no, this is all natural. This is natural. No. So you have experience in tamasic. You have to take those experience into mode of goodness and beyond mode of goodness. So sanctifying one's experience is the way of yoga. 21st June was celebrated as World Yoga Day. People don't understand what is yoga. When I introspect and meditate on myself, my nature, I may experience something deeper, which is inexpressible in any language or words. And we don't educate this. We don't give. Every school children must be given sanctified experience. Instead, we are giving them filthy experience. These filthy experiences are there in internet, in movie halls, in Bollywood music. These filthy experiences are everywhere, all pervading. Unfortunately, we have actually killed the soul of this wonderful land called India. We are rich heritage of rich experience, and they are not visible. So how do I experience? This is a little science. It is a scientific riddle. Can you see this? We say science has advanced so much, but they don't know how do we experience. I'll give you a simple example. You say that now, when this Dasahara time would come, Ram Navami is gone. When Dasahara time would come, you would see this Ram Lila, right? When you see a performance, you see in your brain, in some part of your brain, the location is being processed. In some other part, the depth, how far are they from you? In some part, the motion of these characters are being experienced. In some other part of the brain, the color is being experienced. In some other part, the form or shape is being experienced. And stupidly, foolishly, we claim that brain is the sitting place of consciousness. It's not. Where is this consciousness? When I see a drama, I have a holistic experience. I don't experience, oh, here I'm seeing the shape, here I'm seeing their depth, here I'm seeing, no. Suppose I squeeze you in your ear. You don't say, oh, I experience the pain in the brain. You say you experience in your ear. In fact, 5-6 years ago, I ran a Gurukul in Vrindavan, Bhaktivedanta Gurukul. So there was a student, in that class I was asking, what is this experience? And I asked him, I squeezed his ears. I pulled his ear and told him, where do you experience? He said, in my brain. I pulled it hard. Still he said his brain. I pulled it so hard until he said, oh, I am feeling the pain in my ear. Can you see? The brainwashing of the so-called school books. Because it has been taught. The brain is the sitting place of the consciousness. Consciousness pervades your entire body. You have a body ache. You experience your ache in your consciousness. You have a stomach ache. You experience the stomach ache in your consciousness. And nobody taught this. Because for so-called AI scientists, neuroscientists, consciousness is an epiphenomenon, emerging phenomenon. You know, molecules they combine, atoms they combine, they make organism. Organism become complex, 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 and suddenly at some point of time, consciousness emerges. What kind of stupid, ridiculous theories we are teaching and making our students and our people absolutely fool. This is the way we are teaching. But unfortunately, although science doesn't know how the experience takes place, still they give us sermon. What is consciousness? We have to take lesson from these useless idiots. What is consciousness? Please don't mind my words, because if I really use my proper words, then nobody can really stand, because these people are fooling the entire world. So, just to give you an experience, how we experience light. I'm talking. You say, earlier in Newton time, people said light is traveling in a straight line. Just one line it goes, that's it. Okay? And then for 300 years, people believed, oh, light is going, because Newton said, and after Newton, Heisenberg said, and blah, 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 and goes on. And then quantum mechanics came. Then people said, oh, light is traveling in all, it can take all possible paths. Okay? But if you make a robot to understand what is light, robot will have a photodetector. That photodetector will detect the wavelength of the light. Wavelength of the light. And based on the wavelength, there will be a program. That program would say, I see the red light. I see the blue light. Neither robot understands what is blue, what is red, because the photodetector only has seen a wavelength. But we experience the blueness of the blue light, the redness of the red light. And we have been brainwashed because we didn't educate our children in the science of Bhagavad Gita. This is our literature. Our rishis have done in-depth study, and they have left innumerable pearls based on their study on this wonderful literature. But we do not give emphasis. So light is experienced by a conscious device. Nobody knows. A conscious device measures conscious attributes such as qualia, emotion, desire. They're directly measured. They're not measured in terms of molecules, atoms. So there are two categories of objects in Bhagavad Gita. One Jad, the other is Chetan. But unfortunately, in India, if you ask our students, Jad kya hai, Chetan kya hai? Is there any difference? What is the point of understanding Jad and Chetan? No need. Whether you are living or you are dying, no need. So when people die nowadays, also nobody cries. So there are inert objects which are not conscious. There are living objects that are conscious. And there is pure consciousness beyond inert object and living object. Our science has not been able to explain what is the distinction between inert object and living object. We have allopathy medicine. For allopathy, there is no distinction between inert object and living object. Because for them, whether it is inert object or living object, they are made of hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, calcium, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. But we know a conscious object can experience inert object. We can express not only the self, we can explain also the inert object. For example, a camera. Using a camera, you can take a nice photograph, but camera has no ability to understand this photograph. It cannot explain. So what is that conscious observer that we need to understand? These conscious observers, even in quantum mechanics, they talk about conscious observer. But this is nonsense, this conscious observer. For them, conscious observer is a photodetector, an inert object. Conscious observer is something different that needs to be understood. So, you see what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, text number 217. Avinasi tu tadviddhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasam abhayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. Okay? So now what happens? What science tells you? Suppose you are given an injection. It pains. According to science, the pain is a bad word. You should say your C fibers are firing. It's not paining. Your C fibers are firing. Okay? So this is how this so-called, it's because they get funds, they have power, they have money. They publish their papers. They can do big propaganda. So that which pervades my body in the form of consciousness, Lord Krishna is saying that is imperishable, indestructible. It cannot be cut by weapon. It cannot be burnt by fire. It cannot be wet by water. We have not seen anything in this world that cannot be destroyed. The World Trade Center was destroyed. Hiroshima, Nagasaki were destroyed. Anything can be destroyed in no time. But here it is said, this consciousness cannot be destroyed. So is it not important for us to spend time? What is that which is eternal? So Lord Krishna, see, we are conscious, but we are not conscious of our own consciousness. We are conscious of our own greed. We are conscious of our own lust, anger, pride. We are conscious of our own sense object. If I'm a boy, I'm looking for a girl. If I'm a girl, I'm looking for a boy. I'm a leader, I'm looking for power and follower. But I am not conscious of my own consciousness. But Krishna is saying this consciousness is indestructible, permanent. He's talking about divine consciousness. So in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, 34th verse, Krishna is saying, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So that which illuminates the body, entire body. Lust doesn't illuminate the body. Anger doesn't illuminate the body. Pride doesn't illuminate the body. So then, We must realize that even I am not aware of my own self. I have a divine Swarupa and I have to understand this. So that which illuminates must be divine. And seers of truth have understood the nature of both spirit and matter. Matter degrades us. Spirit illuminates us. Consciousness illuminates us. Chetan illuminates us. Jad degrades us. Simple. But in human form of body, we can experience both. That is why Ahara, Bhaya, Nidra, Maithuna. These are common to both animals and human. But dharma hi eko adhiko vishesha. Dharmena vihina pasu samana. In human form of life, if you do not seek out my divine nature, then sai pasu bada durachara. I am a very dreaded animal. Animals as such are not dreaded. But when humans, they behave as animals, they are very dreaded. So there are two levels of consciousness. One is divine consciousness, Satchit Ananda, eternity, knowledge and bliss. And there is the other aspect, the Jad Chetan, my association with matter makes me conscious of the matter. That is lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and pride. I'll give you an example. One is Prahlada. In India, everybody should have heard about Prahlada. His father was Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was the conqueror of the three worlds. He was so powerful. Indra, Chandra, Varuna, they were all imprisoned. Hiranyakashipu would order the Pavan, you come in the form of spring. Pavan was obliged to follow his diktat. He would order sun, you only give me this much of heat. Sun obliged. That was the power of Hiranyakashipu. And his small child, 5-year-old Prahlada, he rejected him. He said, you are a fake idiot. This is the power of consciousness. A tiny 5-year-old could reject the authority of his own father, who was so powerful, whom Indra, Chandra, Varuna feared. His father tried to kill him in so many ways. He could not be touched because he was in divine consciousness. And as Krishna is saying, you cannot destroy the divinity. But here is the example of Prahlada manifesting divine consciousness. He was put into the fire. Fire could not touch him. He was thrown into the snake pit. The poison could not touch him. And whereas the Hiranyakashipu, every cell of his body is a personification of lust, greed, anger, and whatnot. So, this is your first day. You can see that the red circle, half of your father, half of your mother cell combined to become one cell, and you started. The sperm is combining with the ovum, and that cell grew and grew and grew and grew through cell division. And then now you are Dr. Amit Sinha, Dr. Patavardhan, and varieties of people. Right? Suppose we accept, like the so-called scientists are saying, this ovum is a chemical substance. The sperm is a chemical substance. So they should be able to take this chemical substance, whatever they made up of, and should create. Why they are not creating? Why they have not produced in a single blade of grass? In third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila teaches his mother Devahuti. He says, a conditioned soul is carried through the subtle body and put into the semen of a man, and then enters into the womb of a woman and gets the first body. That means the sperm is not simply a chemical substance. Within it is there the soul. Not only the soul, the subtle body, the Sukma Sarira. And this is also there in every seed, in every egg. It is there. So that is why the self-replication is there in the nature. We cannot recreate. You can't produce a machine that can give birth to a child machine. It's not possible. So the soul is originally pure, but because of its association with matter, it is covered by two levels of ignorance. One level of ignorance is man, buddhi, ahankar, which we call subtle body. And then there is a gross body made up of earth, water, air, fire, ether. These are all very scientific concepts. Just to talk about that, it will take hours for me to discuss. But just to let you know, the consciousness is being covered by two levels of ignorance. So when the first day occurred, there the soul is encased in the subtle body, and my mind has a certain consciousness. That consciousness is manifesting through my body. That means all cells in my body, they are simply representatives of my consciousness. That is why someone enters into some kind of creativity like arts, literature, science. Someone, you teach them mathematics, he will not understand what is mathematics. Someone, you teach him how to play mridanga, he cannot learn mridanga. Because they are being carried. There are certain things that you have to train, you have to practice. When you practice, you get that skill within your subtle body and you carry that to your next body. So my whole body is expansion of a mind, but yet mind doesn't create the body. Mind is given the body by the modes of material nature. These are all very profound scientific ideas in our Bhagavad Gita. So suppose you are a meat eater. So if you are a meat eater, so you will be thrown a body of a meat eater. Who is a meat eater? A tiger, a lion, a dog, a jackal, a wolf. You have no business to eat meat in the body of a human being. In the body of a human being, you are supposed to inquire into absolute truth. in the nature of truth, in the nature of consciousness. So when you pollute your mind by your bad action, a body is thrown upon you. Even if your mind wants that you want to become a very rich person, no. Your consciousness is to eat meat, then you will be by the material nature, you will be provided the similar body. If your consciousness is to do illicit sex, then you become better monkey, pigeons, hogs or pigs. Because in those bodies you can do illicit sex, not in human body. In a human body, sex is for procreation. Sex is for creating or nurturing values. You bring up the child, they will be like Prahlada, Dhruva, Narada, Bhishma. So, body doesn't have a causal power to create the gross body. So I will skip this because I think my time is up and everybody must be cursing me. How much time I have now?
So you can proceed.
Can I speak another 5 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can.
Okay. So never make the mind as your master. If one makes his mind the master, even a very rich person attached to his mansion may be forced to take birth as a dog in that very mansion. And this is the cruelty of the nature. Bodies are given to evolve our consciousness. Varieties are there to evolve our consciousness. Consciousness must manifest in its divine beauty. Why the world is ugly now? Because we don't see consciousness. Lust, greed, anger, arrogance, envy, pervading everywhere. The world is very ugly. Time has come for consciousness in its pristine beauty must manifest. And for that, mind must be sanctified. In yoga, mind is central. Mind is very subtle. Mind is not epiphenomenon of the brain. There are many popular groups, they have come and they've started speaking, saying, brain in action is mind. Stupid theory. Brain is a gross body. So, what is mind? Mind itself is also matter. Although it is matter, but it is very subtle and has the ability to be self-aware. And its individuation comes in contact with the individual soul. This mind is resting place of all kind of thoughts, desire, willing, feeling, loving. These are all sitting in the mind. And it's only two, it has two actions. Either it accepts or rejects. For example, you see a friend or you see someone X and you had a pleasant experience with X. So what mind will do? Will go and tell that, oh, okay, go meet this person. I had a good experience with him. The moment mind has a bad experience with that person, he would like to avoid. Like suppose sometime you invested in stock market, you lost heavily. So next time somebody suggests you, you invest in stock market, mind would reject based on its previous experience. It has only two actions, accept or reject, based on its own experience. Okay. The good part is that mind is an element within our body that is in mode of goodness. That is why anybody, if you see a sea beach, you sit along the sea beach, you would feel happy. You visit Chitrakoot, you visit the Ganga in Alkananda, you will feel very happy because mind is in mode of goodness. Anything in mode of goodness would make mind relaxed. But when mind is associated with passion and ignorance, raja and tama, then it gets agitated. You are unpeaceful. You are not in peace because you are associated with the raja and tama. That is why a king, a prime minister, a president, or a leader, everyone must try to recreate the more opportunity of Sattik. Nice temples, nice ashramas. These are necessary because they are object of mode of goodness. So mind, when you associate with mode of goodness, it stays in present. Just think about it. Mind in mode of goodness. If you associate with the mode of goodness, okay, you hear classical raga, you hear devotional music, you go to the temple, then you remain in present. You contemplate on the nature of absolute truth. You associate with the seers of truth. Right? So these are the activities of a mind. But when it is in mode of passion and ignorance, mind never dwells in present. So everybody says, ना मेरा concentration क्यों नहीं है? मैं पढ़ने के लिए बैठता हूं, मेरा मन नहीं है उधर. के बच्चे हैं 5 मिनट किताब के साथ बैठ नहीं सकते because they are associating with internet, laptop, gadgets, mobile. They are all of tamasic and rajasic. वो क्या करता है? Hankering and lament. What is hankering? Daydreaming. मुझे प्रधानमंत्री बनना है, मुझे आइंस्टाइन बनना है, मुझे ये बनना है. Daydreaming and lament. अरे मैं फेल हो गया, पढ़ाई नहीं किया, फेल हो गया. Lament. मुझे उस लड़की से प्यार हो गया, वो कहां और किसी के साथ भाग गया. Lament. So we only do these two things, hankering and lamenting. We dwell in future, we dwell in past, but that which is most important, we have forgotten. That is present. So where will be the productivity? Where will be the creativity? So mind in pure goodness, you have to take your mind beyond mode of goodness, Suddha Sattva. Then Krishna says, the soul or pure consciousness is revealed. So pure mind is that mirror in which you can see yourself. That is why mind is our best friend when we are situated in yoga. So this is my nature. We have to recognize what is my nature. My nature comes from my karmic memory. I've taken billions of births. And the kind of actions I have done, their impressions are there in mind. I have a genealogical memory. My father, my mother, their father, mother, their father, mother, their father, mother. Then the environment that I select, tamasic environment, rajasic environment, sattic environment, Suddha Sattva environment, and what kind of spiritual connection I have. Based on this, I have to define my nature. And based on nature, I have to act. There are 4 categories of activities: intellectual, administrative, business class, and service provider, labor class. Can you ever imagine any other activity? No. These are 4 occupational duty. You go to America, you go to India, you go anywhere. Intellectual class, administrative class, business class, service provider class. There is no other thing. And Krishna said, Chaturvarnam maya srushta guna karma vibhagasa. I have created these 4 classes according to guna and karma. But हमारा लोग क्या कर दिए? जात, caste. The biggest sin that we inherited in our society, and one of the main reason why our society got condemned, jat, caste. Nowhere Bhagavad Gita doesn't talk about caste. Guna, karma, vibhagasa. We brought in caste. Finished. Can you say a doctor's son will become doctor? A professor's son will become professor? No. By guna and karma, your occupation would be decided. And that occupation must be connected to the search for consciousness or search for truth. Then the life will be wholesome. Then you don't care. You become, you don't see death. You conquer death. Mrityurma amrutam gamaya. So what is yoga? To align mind, brain, body, soul with absolute consciousness. Gross body is aligned with subtle body. Subtle body is aligned with the soul. Soul is aligned with the super soul. There is a process, right? So what is yoga? To be situated in self, Atman, freedom from clutches of both subtle body as well as gross body. To be situated in Sarupa. We are all servant of the absolute truth, Krishna. Perfect alignment of body, brain, mind, and soul with super soul. Absolute truth as the supreme person includes everything, and everything else are simple aspects of him. One's action embodying this principle is yoga. Everything is happening by his will. We must embrace the will of the absolute truth. We should not create our own impure world. Accept the divine world. Then it will become Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is the little deeper understanding of our body. There is super soul and soul. They talk among themselves through para sound. There is subtle body and soul. They talk among themselves through Pashyanti sound. There is gross body and subtle body. They talk in the sound called Madhyama. And then there is gross body to gross body. They talk through Vaikhari. So, there are many questions, and literally any question you ask, you will find an answer in Bhagavad Gita. For example, what is the basic building block of this universe? Scientists are looting the world to answer this question. And every day they are fooling the people. But you refer Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 and 13. You will understand what is the basic building block of this universe. What is the difference between a living body and a dead body? Refer the verse number 4 to 6 in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita. You will understand the answer. If the chemical origin of life is true, then why have we not been successful in even creating a blade of grass? Refer Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. You will find the answer. What caused so much of diversity in this universe? Why not only human? Why there are plants? Why there are reptiles? Why there are insects? Why there are aquatics? Why there are variegated 84 lakh yoni क्यों है? चैप्टर 14 जाइए भगवत गीता, ध्यान से पढ़िए, समझ में आएगा. Consciousness we are, but what is that consciousness? How is it different from matter? Chapter 2, chapter 13, chapter 15 पढ़ाई करिए, सब कुछ है भगवत गीता में. How is the divine plane different from the plane of matter or mundane plane? Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. Ultimately, what is absolute truth? From chapter 7 to chapter 12. Given a seed and a field, a nice tree manifests. When a man and a woman unite, a beautiful baby manifests. All the planetary systems are put into motion in a perfect manner, which is beyond our comprehension. What is the science behind this apparent self-organized universe? Read chapter 18. So, you can go on asking varieties of questions, and everything is there in Bhagavad Gita. And this is my last slide. Therefore, be situated in yoga. Every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is yoga. It starts with Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. Like that it goes on, all yoga. So, if you don't read Bhagavad Gita, how can you understand what is yoga? Be mindful what you eat, what you listen, what you talk, whom you surrender, because they affect your consciousness. By contemplating on the nature of absolute truth, one can spiritualize one's mind and body. One body is that of Prahlada, the other body is that of Hiranyakashipu. One body is functioning as a divine, the other body is functioning as a rock. By hearing from right source and authority, one must be situated in spiritual intelligence that will guide the mind and body to align with the divinity. The best policy is to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna as given in Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much for your present hearing.
Thank you, sir. Participants, you may raise your query. If you have any questions. Sir, I do have a question. My question is, as per Bhagavad Gita, how would I describe a universe in a single sentence?
The universe is simply an expression of the absolute truth in the matter of giving shelter to those who are in imperfection.
Fine. Thank you, sir.
This universe is that there are, this is not only the only universe. There are millions of spiritual universes. There are millions of material universes. Okay.
Yes.
Finally, everything is an aspect of the absolute truth.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is what Krishna showed as far as this universe, Krishna exhibited through his Virata form. Because Arjuna was not fighting.
Yes.
Krishna said, what you are going to fight? All this Duryodhana and his party are already in my mouth.
Very
in
true.
the form of time. If you fight, you get the credit because I'll give you the credit.
Absolutely.
So we all can only become the instrument. Yes, Kamal Sil, you have raised your hand, please.
I think, sir, the next question is from Amit Kishore Sinha, sir. Sir is asking, we find different versions of Gita. Which version is better to refer? Different authors had explained in their way.
Please read Bhagavad Gita as it is by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You send me your address, I will send you the book.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you. Sir,
I'm teaching Bhagavad Gita through online. Learn Gita, live Gita. You can also register in that.
Thank you. So the next question is from PK Patra. With reference to Prahlad, the divine manifested from a pillar to rescue his devotee. I have a question based on this. Do objects, metals have consciousness too?
Objects, inert objects don't have consciousness, but Krishna is present within every object. Ekopi asau rachitum jagadanda koti yasaktirasti jagadanda chaidantaha andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. Paramanu. He is there even in subatomic particles. He is there within every cell of your body. Otherwise, your cell will become dead. He is situated in every aspect of your existence, in every aspect of the universal existence. Without him, even a leaf would not fall. He is all pervading. And Prahlad knew it. It is his creation. Whenever he chooses, he can manifest wherever he wants. He is not confined to only pillar. Everything is his own energy.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Shambhu Sharan Srivastav. The question is, sir, how to keep yourself motivated and radiate this positivity to our students in these tough times?
Please read Bhagavad Gita, my dear sir. Bhagavad Gita is that effulgent ray. Anybody who takes daily bath in this wonderful message of Bhagavad Gita will be always joyful, happy, and can radiate joy and happiness to everyone. No doubt about it. Bansal.
Okay, sir. The next question is...
Bansal, can you, just a moment, Bansal, can you put that link to LGLG? Jalia. So the link to LGLG is there. Those who want to learn Bhagavad Gita can go to that link and contact our coordinator. They will help you. We want 7 million people to learn Bhagavad Gita. If there are 7 million people, only 7 million, if they learn Bhagavad Gita, then whole world will attain peace. There will be no war. I can give you a guarantee. Our Vedic literature says one person must be knowledgeable in Bhagavad Gita to make 1,000 people peaceful. We have 7 billion population. So 7 million people need to be educated in Bhagavad Gita. And this is the target of our LGLG. Learn Gita, live Gita. The mission is to educate 7 million people in Bhagavad Gita. Real knowledge is the necessity of the day.
Sure, sir. Okay, sir. The next question is from Amit Jayant Deshmukh. The question is how to obtain moksha.
I said that today. By being situated in yoga. Yoga means you have to learn the science by which you can separate yourself from your gross body. Aham mameti. Then your subtle body. Man, buddhi, ahankar. Then you need the special blessings or grace of Guru and Krishna. And that grace would liberate you and will take you to the plane of immortality. And that is what is Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think all queries have been sorted out. So, sir, we are highly thankful to you that we gained some pearls of that wisdom of yours, accumulated over the years of extensive academic exposure. The way you delivered your speech during this session inspired all of us to look forward into this genre and explore opportunities hidden under it. Thanks a ton, sir.